Hello and welcome to the Market Advantage, talking about FanDuel and DraftKings pricing. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. And we're talking about some big differences in prices, also some guys that we're considering based on those prices, some other value plays that don't have significant discounts. So talking first off about Julius Randle, going to be a really popular play tonight against that Denver front court, which as always, seemingly my entire life has been awful defensively. Looking at Randle, 5,100, got a little price bump on FanDuel, but on DraftKings sitting at $6,100. Not saying he's not a guy I'd still be playing on DraftKings, but he makes for a much, much better play on FanDuel at 51. But so we'll say you got 100 lineups on each site. How many more are you going to play of Randle on FanDuel compared to DK?
Maybe I'll drop him down 10 lineups on DK, but he's still going to be a high usage guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a phenomenal matchup for Randle, and as we mentioned on the Minutes podcast, there's some issues with injuries and depth in that Denver front court already, so it could be a very nice night for Julius Randle, and just know that he's probably going to be the most popular play at any position, really on both sites there. Next up, Darren Collison, obviously a guy coming off the bench here. He's $1,000 cheaper on DraftKings, $4,700. He's $57 on FanDuel. Not a great matchup against Memphis, of course, but we have seen the Kings go smaller with DeMarcus Cousins out. He missed the second half of the last game. Now you got to imagine that you and I were discussing it. It seems that we think Rudy Gay will probably start at the 4, either CauleyStein or Kufos at the 5, and then maybe Omri Caspi at the 3, and we see maybe some extra minutes for these guards if they're going small. But it's all kind of speculative right now. But at the same time, you expect both Rondo and Collison to be right around 28 minutes probably. And I still prefer Collison. I know that Rondo's been playing well, but I don't believe that all of a sudden he's a polished offensive player.
Yeah, I'm with you there. You can never trust Rondo. Only good thing is we have George Karl out there in Sacramento, and he is a great basketball mind, so we can kind of trust him in matching up these guys tonight. But I mean, looking at the Kings, I still Willie CauleyStein 4,000 on DK there, where you can roster two centers if you want. He's got some decent upside, but like I said, it's going to be the matchup that I'm worried about if he is against Gasol. But that's the only thing that makes this pick risky.
Yeah, and $1,200 discount, like you mentioned there, only 4,000 on DraftKings, 52 on FanDuel there. So nice discount if you want to take a shot on Willie CauleyStein there. Next up, Drew Holiday, obviously just a GPP play, 21 then 27 minutes in his 2 games, but does have, through that very small sample size, second highest usage rate in the NBA behind Russell Westbrook at 35.7%. So when he's on the court, he's taking a ton of shots. He is the offense. Don't expect him to really go even really probably past 25, maybe up to 27 where he was at before minutes. But at $5,900 on FanDuel, no thanks. But at $5K on DraftKings, you and I were talking that he might be worth a shot in a couple GPPs if you're making a bunch of lineups, though.
Yeah, I think so, too. I mean, you're looking at the point guards around him. It's guys like Jordan Clarkson, Dennis Schroeder, Ish Smith, Deron Williams, all kind of no thank you guys. But, looking at FanDuel, it's, Emmanuel Mudiay right next to him. So, or actually cheaper there. So you kind of like those guys instead on FanDuel. But DraftKings, I'll probably take a shot on them.
Yeah. The 200th best player in the NBA next up, Kobe Bryant, self-proclaimed 200th best player. He's been awful in the early going. He's still scoring points, but I saw a crazy stat that people were surprised by for some reason. It said he had taken as many shots as the number of passes he had actually passed. And that's not a joke. That was a real thing. Obviously, Kobe Bryant looking out for number 1, as he does. But if you're trying to throw him in a tournament, as we know, he's still a great shooter. Haven't really seen it this year, but he can certainly put up points in a hurry. Not really going to see more than 30 minutes ever, but if you're going to take a shot, FanDuel is definitely not the place at $7,700, but at $66 on DraftKings, if you want to do that, go ahead. I'm not a fan, but we're talking about big price discrepancies here, so if he's a guy that's on your list, DraftKings is definitely the way to play him.
Yeah, and the only good thing about Bryant is tonight, he's shooting 31% from the field, so Randle should be getting some rebound opportunities down low for offensive putbacks.
yeah, lots of clanging off the back rim tonight. So bump Randle up from his projected 38 rebounds to about 45. Obviously joking with that number, but Randle should have plenty of opportunities. There's quite a few chuckers on these two teams here. Next up, Manuel Mudiay, like you were mentioning, he's $500 less on FanDuel than on DraftKings, 54 to 59. going to be a pretty popular play. Another guy who's got a really high usage rate this season, 8th in the NBA, tied with James Harden, actually, 31.4%. Hasn't been particularly effective shooting the ball quite yet. He's turning the ball over more than you'd like, but at his price, he's a guy that I'm slotting into my cash games. He's playing big minutes. He's producing, and I mean, it's a Lakers team that it's similar to the Denver front court situation where for years they've been awful against point guards, and 27 minutes each of the last 2 games isn't great for him, but at his price tag, I think he's a perfectly acceptable cash game filler.
Yeah, I really like him tonight. The matchup's great, and like you said, the usage rate is high. It's in at 30.4% right now, which is very solid. I think if you're just paying up elsewhere and you still want to get exposure to that late game, Mudiay is probably the guy to easily slot in on the opposite side of Randle.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And then one of the best players so far this season, Andre Drummond, 24.5% usage rate. He's sitting at $8,900 on FanDuel, $82 on DraftKings, a little bit of a discount there. But in some much tougher matchups, Drummond has had some huge games. Already has an 18-19 game. He's got a 20-20 game. Now he's facing off against an Indiana team that is the second worst rebounding team in all of basketball, -9 rebound differential, allowing 12 offensive rebounds a game. This is just not a good situation for that Indiana front court. And best thing about Drummond, you and I were looking at some foul numbers for Drummond. Only 5 combined fouls in his last 2 games, and this is a guy who's playing huge minutes. That was the one concern you had with him before. There's nobody in this Indiana front court that has a chance of slowing him down, so I expect him to feast again tonight.
Yeah, I love Drummond. I mean, you got to like with that price discrepancy there on DK because you got the double-double bonus. And, looking at Indy's defense, they've allowed the 4th most fantasy points allowed to opposing centers there, so it's going to be a fun day for Andre Drummond.
Yeah, if Drummond has his way, that number is going to be second or first by the end of tonight. So definitely loving Drummond here. Nikola Mirotic here, $500 more on DraftKings, where he's a power forward compared to a small forward on FanDuel. Still prefer him on FanDuel, where he is a small forward. Also, the discount isn't substantial, but you like it a little bit. And at power forward, there's just other value guys I prefer if I'm trying to save a little bit of money because he's still not a huge minutes guy. He's the guy that you like. Gives you that nice high floor because he can kind of do it all. But aside from the 39 minutes against Detroit, he's been 30, 28, and 25 in his other games. So he's still a perfectly fine play, but I definitely prefer him at small forward.
Yeah, definitely. He's a safe play. But, at power forward, I want a little more upside from my players, so I'm not really willing to pay that price tag there. But FanDuel, I definitely like him.
Yeah. Next up, Alfred Payton, guy who's $7,000 on FanDuel and $6,200 on DraftKings. Nice little discount there if you're a guy that wants to take a shot on him. I mean, this is a guy who's not a good scorer, hasn't done a good job shooting the ball this season, but that's really not his strength. I mean, he's kind of working on his offensive game still. His minutes were there the first couple games, but, I mean, his production just hasn't been great. He was great against Washington, but against OKC, despite an overtime game, 37 minutes, just 27 FanDuel points in that one. So he's a GPP-only play for me, and definitely more so on DK than FanDuel, because 7K, I mean, you're getting up there in Jeff Teague, almost Kyle Lowry territory, and there's no way for me in that matchup.
Yeah, I'm with you there. He's definitely more of a DK play because he's 6,200. Looking at his last 2 games, I mean, he had 10 personal fouls in those 2 games, and facing against pretty good point guards, offensive point guards, with Rose and Westbrook there. But so he did have some trouble. But I mean, we do know what he can do. 38 points there against John Wall. That's pretty impressive. For 6,200, I don't mind the risk.
Yeah, certainly has some upside. I mean, New Orleans is allowing the most fantasy points per game to point guards, but just keep in mind they played Steph Curry twice, so don't expect those numbers to be nearly as inflated as they are. I think I saw almost 60 FanDuel points per game. That's Steph Curry more so than it is New Orleans being bad in the backcourt. I mean, they're still not a good defensive team in the backcourt, but it's not as extreme as it may seem, so take those numbers with a little grain of salt there. Reggie Jackson, facing off against George Hill. I'm not a big fan of playing guys against George Hill. He's one of the bigger point guards in the league. He's a great defender. He's $8,200 on FanDuel is a definite no thanks for me. But $7,500 on DraftKings is a little bit of a discount. Not a bad guy to throw in some tournaments, but still priced near Kyle Lowry territory and even more expensive on FanDuel. I just can't see going off Lowry to him except for maybe in a tournament.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, he's definitely a GPP play. The matchup isn't great. And, just the pricing around him, I'd either rather go cheaper because I think guys like Mudiay and even Payton have more of an upside than he does tonight. So,
yeah, absolutely. Next up, Chris Bosh, guy who hasn't been great thus far this season. Only played, I believe it was 25 minutes in the last game against Houston. They went with Hassan Whiteside. He was the hot hand. Made sense. Bosh had a couple good games to start the season, but $7,800 on FanDuel, $71 on DraftKings. Just really not an appealing play to me tonight against Atlanta. I just don't see him having much upside past his price point, and there are some cheaper guys there at power forward today. So I guess if you're going for a swerve, he's an okay play on DraftKings, but probably not a guy I'll have any of tonight.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many good guys you got. Kenneth Faried, who I think has a decent matchup. And, hopefully he gets that minutes bump with a weak Denver front court. And still Randle looks like the top points per dollar option tonight. And if I am paying up, it's going to be for Anthony Davis.
Yeah, and then discussing a couple guys who really aren't much significantly cheaper either side, but some nice value plays. Marvin Williams, I'm a big fan of. Not a great matchup, but we've seen him in some tough matchups already this season. He's playing 30-plus minutes, 4,800 on FanDuel, 45 on DraftKings. I think he's a really nice filler there. Evan Fournier, a guy that we mentioned on the Minutes podcast, he's nice and cheap on both sites as well. So those are probably my favorite fillers as far as value plays. Anybody else that you want to throw out there? I know you're on. We both talked about both those guys already on the Minutes pod.
Yeah, I mean, I still think Marcus Morris, although it's not a deep value play, but he's still sitting at mid-range salary there. So you got to like what he's been doing with production, especially in a weak small forward spot tonight.
Yeah,
but outside of that, not too much.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of other values to have. Julius Randle, we'll say it one more time. Play Julius Randle. So hopefully that's helped you out. Get some idea of some pricing on the two sites there. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Got lots of other great content for NBA tonight, NFL, and everything else in between at dailyfantasycafe.com.